Hi, Ross. Thank you for joining us on this conversation.
Pleasure to be here.
So I would like to, first of all, address the issue of pandemic right now. And that, because you are a futurist, we were very keen to hear from you what may happen next. What can you tell us about post-COVID-19? How would the world look like?
So what we've seen is that there are some existing trends that were accelerating due to this crisis, and there are some completely new things that are emerging. So some of the ones which are real characteristics of this world post-pandemic, as it were. So one of the ones is limitations in face-to-face contact. And so we're never going to get back quite to where we were before. And this is partly because whilst we may have vaccines and so on, even then people are going to be, even if we completely vanquish coronavirus, which I think is unlikely, people will be now very concerned about something else emerging. And so not just being able to have, being worried about that, but there'll be responses very quickly if we start to see some kind of a potential for a pandemic moving forward. So we'll need to have a more flexible system where it's not either completely open or completely shut, as we've had now, to something which is we may say, oh, well, there's something of concern and we need to be able to contain how much contact we have. Related to that is travel. So, of course, at the moment, most nations have actually closed their borders, and we will see that for some time to come. When we start to see, for example, the rise of international travel, first, when a nation opens up, it's not going to suddenly say the whole world can come, but that there may be some other nations which they have strong control over the coronavirus, which we will allow that traffic, with additional safeguards. Also, inside nations, people will be traveling less, both in airplanes, but also between locations. And this is one of the key things, I suppose, is the nature of how work is changing. Another key thing which is changing the nature of business and globalization is supply chains, where, of course, we've seen this disruption to the ability to transport things safely, that there are some places where manufacturing or other things have just been slowed or curtailed. And so this changes how we design, the nature of how we get products, how they are distributed, and how organizations cope with that. And the other key thing,
will the country be a lot more self-sufficient after this?
That's one of the implications, yes, is that firstly, that we are looking for production of food or other goods to tend to be more local. Of course, we can't do that for everything, but that will be one of the tendencies. Another is that we've had this, just in time is a very old phrase, this idea of how do we do things as efficiently and leanly as possible. And the trouble is that as soon as you get disruption, the whole thing breaks down. Right. So this drive to efficiency, which has been such a central aspect of business for a long time now, we are likely to see, well, in fact, we do need to build in some margin for delays, for access to goods, for whatever it may be. So it changes the design of business. And another key, one of the other fundamental things changing is really the role of government, where, of course, we're seeing these massive support systems and schemes being put in place in many countries around the world. And these can't be sustained indefinitely because governments don't have infinite resources. But given the cost and the impact of the cost on human lives and their potential to live good lives, as well as the financial cost, that we do need, there's now this recognition. We need to change the nature of the roles of governments, the relative roles of government and citizens, and the support mechanisms. So if we look at these key factors, we now sort of say, well, what are the pathways forward? There's, you could, crudely say there are faster and slower and very slow pathways out of this. There are definitely going to be some countries which are faster out, and there are some countries where we can't even see when we're starting to be able to emerge from these constraints that they have. So this
Doesn't sound like a very bright future. Not
well,
one that I would enjoy.
So I think that we need to be always looking for opportunities. And so in the sense that, yes, I think everyone in the world would be happier if we didn't have the pandemic. But this is a reality of the nature of a crowded planet, the nature of our health systems. So one of the big frames around this is that any change is a potential for positive change. The lovely phrase, never waste a crisis. And this is inevitably a turning point in humanity. From generations to come, whatever happens, this will be a marking point when we see big shifts in how we organize society, the nature of how we interact as nations, the whole, the reality of work and society. So this is an opportunity to make this shift positive.